very good morning to all of you. As we stand here today, we all are aware of the climate crisis the world is grappled with. And India, which is poised with immense growth potential, stands at a crossroad. The challenge ahead is monumental. How to balance our accelerated growth trajectory with the net zero pathways. In 2023, India registered a GDP growth of 7.2%, while the rest of the world was just at half at 3.4%, and the advanced economies were at 2.4%. Steel sector drives the economy of any country, and Indian steel sector, which is the second largest producer of the steel in the world, showed a phenomenal growth in the same period with CAGR of 12%, while the world grew at just 0.1%, and China, which is the largest producer, had a negative growth of 1.6%. Also, as stated in our national steel policy, India is determined to grow and double its production capacity by 2030, reaching 300 million ton and showing a growth potential of at least 7 to 8% CAGR. These facts are to be proud of, but another fact still lies ahead of us. We have a humongous task of decoupling our growth, our ambitious growth, with the emissions. India's emission grew almost at a similar rate as its GDP grew, and we are currently contributing to about 2.7 gigaton of CO2 per annum. And the steel sector, which is the largest carbon emitting sector in India, contributes 12% of this emission. World over, steel is produced at emission intensity of about 1.9 tons of CO2 per ton of crude steel, while in India it is 2.5. We have a very strong situational disadvantage. Our iron ore, which is the basis of the steel production, is of low grade. Our steel producers uses about 58 to 62% iron ore, while the best producers in the world in blast furnace route uses 68%. And we have lots of low-grade iron ore reserves lying in the dump. We also have very limited availability of scrap, and we are producing only 21% of our steel through scrap, while the world average is 31%, and the countries like US, it is at 64%, while EU is at 57%. Also, India has very limited availability of natural gas, especially for the steel sector, and the cost is too high to be economically viable, and only 7% of our steel is produced through this route, while EU and Europe and US sees a greater number. But this just tells us that the challenge is more intense for us, and we have to work harder to circumvent our situational disadvantages and reach our net zero goals. So Ministry of Steel have been trying hard towards this and towards producing a roadmap, action plan and strategy for the decarbonization of the whole steel sector. It has identified 14 levers which encompass the whole gamut of solutions for decarbonization. We have created 14 task forces, had more than 120 stakeholder meetings spread across the whole year. A lot of deliberations and brainstormings have gone. We have created 14 task force reports, and now all that findings are being compiled into a consolidated document which is going to outline this roadmap and action plan for the decarbonization of steel sector, which is going to be the first in any of the sector in India. However, whatever we have seen through these task forces, there are three key areas of challenges. We can divide them into three pillars of policy, finance, and technology. Talking about policy, in very brief, I'll just like to mention there are three key important policy levers required for transition of not just the steel, but the whole industrial sector. One is taxonomy of green products. How do we define what is green? It is very important for telling producers what to produce, buyers what to buy, financiers what to finance. Hence, this is very much required, which we are again developing as an independent policy. We also need an MRV mechanism for credible standard emission measurement methodology, which is not there yet in India for many of the sectors. Another most important, more important than the previous one is policy lever is green public procurement policy, we have to create demand for green products, green steel, for the producers to get sufficient nudge in the direction of producing green steel. It has been estimated by Ministry of Steel that if green steel entails a premium of 30% cost, just 20% mandate of using that green steel in public procurement can increase the cost only by 1% of the total infrastructural cost of the country. However, this 1% comes out to be a big number. On the technology side, we have few levers, important levers like green hydrogen, CCUS, biochar, which can bring the transformative change. However, the technology availability is very limited and it's in nascent stage, not only in India, but across the world. The cost of adoption of these technologies, both CapEx and OpEx, is so high that it is prohibitive in its current stage to be adopted in Indian scenario. So there lies a very big challenge, and we need a very strong support from R&D and the finances, which comes as a third challenge pillar. For finances, this is an over-encompassing solution for all the problems, not only for the policy implementation. I just talked about 1% budget increase, which amounts to 47,000 crore in numbers. So that is huge. So even for policy implementation, we need a lot of finances. For technology, we definitely need a lot of finances. For example, I'll give you an example. Green hydrogen is currently available at a rate of $5 to $6 per kg. However, steel industry says it can readily adopt and move to green hydrogen only if it's available at a cost of $1 to $1.5. So who is going to fund that transition? Who is going to bridge that gap? And then CCUS is also enormously costly, although it has a huge potential. And I would like to share that in India, in the steel sector, we are estimating that 56% of carbon abatement in sector can happen only through CCUS, given our legacy technologies. So it's that important for us, but the cost is again very prohibitive at this stage. So, and there are few low-hanging fruits like energy efficiency, for which the technology is right now available, but we have only 50% penetration in our bigger plants and much lesser than 50% penetration of energy efficiency technologies, what we call as BATs, in the smaller steel sector. Hence, there also, and only prohibition is the cost, is the finances. And as I was talking to Sir, another issue is renewable energy transformation. We can bring down our emission intensity of the steel sector by almost around 11 to 12% just by switching over to renewable energy, which is a very low-hanging fruit. But the cost of transition, at least the huge initial push, is huge. As has been estimated, to convert all the existing thermal captive plants catering to steel sector to renewable energy is about 12,000 crores. So that is again huge. India, with its strong developmental agenda, with critical areas such as health, education, basic infrastructure, which improves the quality of life for millions of people and make our socioeconomic stability stronger and stable, cannot really finance all the financial needs of green transition. What is required today is the producers, the business people, have to come forward and have to have a sensitive, responsible mindset and have to be courageous to be able to compromise their bottom line for a sustainable world. ESG adaptation should not merely be just a compliance measure. It should also be internalized in their strategies for future production. So hence, a very important thrust towards green transition has to come from the corporate world, who have to stop worrying about only their top line and bottom line and start drawing a green line as well. They have to take tough decisions to adopt new technologies, switch over to alternate fuels, and spend money in R&D. This is absolutely low in India. Corporates are hardly spending money in R&D. It's only up to government. They look only up to government to provide R&D solutions. And also, on the other hand, there is an equal responsibility which lies on purchasers. Every purchase decision influences corporate decisions and the product mix in the market. Hence, consumers and purchasers also play a very important role in creating this green demand. We all today are ready to pay even 100% premium for organic foods because we think it's important for our health. But how about green steel? Are we ready to pay 30% premium or even 20 or 10% premium? Or mind you, it's going to be only 2% premium on the manufactured white goods. Are we ready to pay that 2% premium on the white goods because it's going to be important for our planet's health? So these are the questions we have to all think about collectively, and we, the government, the producers, the purchasers, all have to work collectively towards making our planet more sustainable, our economies more stable, and our life of not only future generation, but also this generation under the ambit of well-beingness. Thank you so much.